2 months have passed since Nintendo unleashed the Switch 2, and behind all the hype, real problems are stacking up. Overheating, blurring, drift, and that ultra-high price tag? You're probably not getting what you paid for. At launch, Switch 2 promised a massive jump. Better hardware, sharper screen, fancy new Joy-Cons. Retail price in the US? $449. Worth it? We thought so. But after weeks of use and real reviews from people, not ad copy, the cracks are showing. Recap time. You get a 7.9-inch 1080p LCD panel with 120Hz refresh rate and HDR10. Internally, a custom NVIDIA chip, 12GB RAM, 256GB storage. Docked mode jumps to 4K and 60 FPS. Joy-Con 2 with better grip, bigger SL and SR buttons. On paper, this sounds like Nintendo finally catching up, but with great power comes some trade-offs. Issue 1. The screen isn't living up to 120Hz promise in a meaningful way. Multiple reviewers and technical sites found that the response time in many games is roughly 17 milliseconds at 60 Hz. That's slow. You will see motion blur and ghosting, especially in fast action or platformers. Some reported image trails after fast camera movements. Even though the refresh rate is 120 Hz, the overall clarity still feels muddy. In other words, yes, it's better than the old 720p screen, but it's far from perfect. For comparison, many gaming monitors are under 6 milliseconds for LCDs, and OLEDs are way lower. So this display feels more like a middle ground compromise than a top-tier upgrade. And firmware patches so far have not fully fixed this blur and ghosting problem. Second big issue, battery life and heat. Nintendo claims 2 to 6.5 hours depending on game type, but real use, heavier games push the Switch 2 down to around 2 hours or slightly more. Even easier games or classic and fighting titles may be 4 to 5 hours. Some users report the battery indicator action weird. It drops fast, says low battery, but the device keeps going. Nintendo acknowledged this might be a bug. Heat becomes a problem. In warm environments above 35 degrees Celsius or 95 degrees Fahrenheit, fans spin loud, the case gets hot, performance dips or throttling. For handheld gaming, that means less comfort, more worry. If you're always docked or always playing outdoors, this becomes a real trade-off. Power versus portability. Third problem area, Joy-Con drift and the storage strain. Surprisingly, despite the upgrade to Joy-Con 2, Nintendo didn't implement Hall effect sensors. That means the same stick drift vulnerability from Switch 1 carries forward. Reviews are already showing signs of drift or looseness after moderate use. On a storage, 256GB sounds generous, but with modern AAA titles, patches, DLCs, you will feel that up fast. And expansion is limited to expensive microSD express cards. Third-party docks or cheaper storage solutions are often blocked. Plus, load times from slower SD cards can hurt. Some games require install space, so you might be constantly managing storage. The locked USB-C port means you can't use many older accessories or cheap docks. Extra cost, extra frustration. Let's get real. You spent around $450. For that, you expect performance that at least competes with other mid to higher tier consoles or handhelds. But what you often get instead is a nice display that looks good but smears with motion. Battery life so short you need a charger nearby. Joy-Con drift that haunts you like a Nintendo curse. Accessories you can't reuse and the storage you can't expand cheaply. So the question becomes, what's the actual value here? If you buy it for the exclusives, maybe you feel rewarded. If you expected raw power, this might sting. Not everything is bad. Let's give credit where it's due. Original Switch games run much better now. Higher resolution, faster load times, smoother 60 FPS in many ports. In docked mode, 4K output is impressive, especially with DLSS upscaling. Screens will look crisp, Shading better, textures pop more than on the old Switch. Joy-Con 2 design improvements: better grip, larger SL and SR, more ergonomic feel. Even the magnetic attachment is more stable. Backward compatibility is strong. Titles from old Switch run comfortably, often with visible benefits. So, if you care more about portability and Nintendo's unique games, the Switch 2 still hits many of the right notes. 2 months in, the Switch 2 is a mixed bag. It's Nintendo's most ambitious hybrid yet, sure, but ambition doesn't erase flaws. If you're buying, weigh what matters most: power or portability, exclusives or display clarity. What do you think? Would you buy Switch 2 now knowing its compromises? Hit that like button if you found this helpful, subscribe for more gaming truths, and I will see you in the next deep dive.